calls are again growing for world nations to stop vaccine hoarding. This amid concerns that vaccine nationalism puts countries without intellectual property rights at a disadvantage in fighting this pandemic. The World Health Organization has launched the global COVID-19 vaccination strategy. It's meant to provide vaccines to 40% of people in all countries by year end, but that goal seems to be slipping further away. Let's talk more about this then with Health Justice Initiative Director Fatima Hassan. Fatima, very good morning to you. We've been having the same conversation, I think you and I, for the better part of the past year. Now we're sitting with a new variant. More questions and answers about it. Is this what you have always been warning about?
Yeah, we've been warning about this since 2020, that you needed to vaccinate the entire world speedily at the same time and everyone everywhere. And the situation that we have right now is that the continent of Africa has a vaccination rate of 7%. That is dismal when, we have multiple safe and effective vaccines, and it's already sort of the end of November 2021. And we warn that while you take so long to vaccinate people around the world, you're going to have more virus circulating, you're going to have more variants emerging. And obviously, you just talked earlier about the travel bans. And so the reaction that we're now seeing is that instead of having global solidarity, instead of having a commitment to help the many, many countries that have now discovered this variant circulating in their countries, not just in South Africa, it's not just in Botswana, it's not just in Africa, but it's in the global north as well, that instead of having that kind of commitment to trying to get vaccines as fast as possible to at least 40% of people in parts of the world, particularly Africa, what we're seeing is a really racist, knee-jerk reaction with the imposition of widespread travel bans, and that's simply unacceptable to us. I mean, I just cannot believe that we're having the same conversation about why vaccine equity is important, why timely delivery of supplies is important, and why we need to get the first shot to as many people as possible, even before we even start administering the second or third shot.
And as you speak about the segregation and just the response to confirmation of countries that have detected cases of the Omicron variant, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy have all confirmed cases. So far, I was just saying, we've only got confirmation from Switzerland that it will not allow travelers from the UK. But go back, rewind to Thursday, we were already hearing bans on South Africa as a result.
I mean, we were all meant to travel to Switzerland, to Geneva this weekend as part of the ministerial conference, which ironically was supposed to try and get some kind of resolution on the TRIPS waiver, which has been proposed for over a year now, to try and actually address the issue of vaccine equity and to try and address the issue of the supply chain for diagnostics, for treatment, for vaccines, to try and address this pandemic. And all of us were told that basically no one was to be able to enter Switzerland over this weekend, and not just the UK. But, there's basically a lockdown in many airports around the world. And as a result, the ministerial conference, the WTO, has postponed this meeting indefinitely. I mean, we had warned that it's a bit foolish and, to have an in-person meeting in the middle of a pandemic when most of the global south can't travel. You remember that before the travel ban was imposed, it was already difficult for people in Africa to be able to travel to many countries because you required proof of a vaccination where you had received at least 2 doses in some cases. In some cases, the vaccines that have been used in many parts of Africa or in other parts of the global south are not even being recognized by the EU or by the UK. So already it was quite difficult to travel, but it was still possible, and now it's just, been made impossible. And unfortunately, we've been made the scapegoat. Now, I have many objections to how our government has managed this pandemic. You and I have spoken about this. We're litigating for greater transparency and for equity. But in this case, our scientists did the right thing. They didn't hide information. They were not secretive. They were transparent. And this is what we want. We have some of the world's top scientists doing the surveillance, and instead of being rewarded and instead of being offered some kind of support and socioeconomic support as well for our regions, what we got was a travel ban, and couched in very racist language. Unfortunately, the UK government said in the last 48 hours that they've done everything that they could to vaccinate the world and that these bans are appropriate and the correct response. I mean, there's cases discovered now in Belgium. We now have unconfirmed reports that it may have been diplomats in Botswana who are actually carrying the variant. So there's a lot of information that is unknown, and this is why the WHO in the last 48 hours said that this is not the correct response when we started out this pandemic, we said there would be global solidarity. What we're seeing is anything but global solidarity right now.
And it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it? You listen to Boris Johnson and you listen to the Americans who say, well, we're banning travelers from South Africa and the broader SADC region, but congratulations, well done to your scientists on alerting the world to the existence of this new variant, but stay away.
I mean, it's such a self-defeating public health strategy because we're so advanced into this epidemic. We're not in a situation of March 2020. We're in a situation of November 2021. And it's also an uneven travel ban. So some countries have been banned by the US, who are mostly in Africa, and other, countries were added overnight also from Africa, but some of the European countries and North American countries have not. So at this point, the experts that we've spoken to have said that it's, the travel ban may have had a value for a short period of time. At a certain point in this pandemic, at this point, it's not really helping. We can travel with proof of vaccination. You can provide that certificate if necessary, and the experts are now saying that even the PCR test is not really helpful or necessary, but if needed, you can do that. So there are ways in which you can mitigate the concern that you don't want to, spread more COVID-19, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a widespread travel ban. And we really hope that the president listens to the experts and the scientists. Professor Mahdi has written this morning as well. You don't need a domestic travel ban. That is really not going to be the solution to what we are dealing with. What we need is a solution for global vaccine equity. We need to get that 7% rate in Africa up to at least 20-30% within the next 6 weeks. I mean, the end of 2021 is around the corner. It's simply not okay and sufficient for pharmaceutical companies who have hoarded knowledge and hoarded supplies and prioritized northern customers to say, well, we'll only deliver to you in February, March 2022. I mean, this is a conversation we've had before, right?
But Fatima,
it's wrong to say to black and brown people that you don't matter. You must wait, and you must wait longer. And while you wait, we will ban all your travel, we will cripple your economies, and we will shut down your industries.
You talk about that deadline to the year end, 6 weeks to go. The idea was that 70% of the global population would be vaccinated. You're now saying the World Trade Organization meeting that was meant to deal with the lifting of intellectual property rights, which we were hoping in South Africa, and I think India as well was pushing for it, would help fast track the production of vaccines, right? That is in limbo. So it looks like we're going to miss the deadline.
We're definitely going to miss the deadline, and this is what the DG of the World Health Organization has been warning, and he's called it a situation of, grave scarcity and also morally grotesque. And remember that the WHO could pass the waiver tomorrow. You don't need an in-person ministerial conference to actually pass the waiver. And here's the irony. The world is very quick to impose travel bans on Africa and the countries that have been calling for the waiver for over a year. 100 countries in the global south support the passing of the TRIPS waiver. A few countries that have imposed travel bans, we call them the blockers, are now the banners. So they are very quick to impose travel bans, but can't decide and resolve a simple, elegant solution, which is temporary and time-bound, just to deal with this pandemic on a TRIPS waiver. And so I think this is for us, the double standards that we speak about, the vaccine inequity, the vaccine apartheid, and this is what is enraging scientists, healthcare workers, community activists. I mean, even the Vatican is calling for the relaxation of intellectual property rules. Even Nobel laureates are calling for that. So, there needs to be a global reckoning. And unfortunately, the WHO doesn't have authority and power to deal with this. And once again, we're now beholden in a very perverse way to a trade body to try and, give us a quick resolution on the sharing of the technology and of the information and the knowledge that the pharmaceutical companies are holding onto. And remember, they have made billions in profit already, multiple times over. So, we're not dealing with a situation where you want to just take away somebody's knowledge or property without adequate compensation or without them actually being financially sustainable. That is not what the TRIPS waiver proposal is all about.
Fatima, Hassan, always good to speak to you. Fatima is from the Health and Justice Initiative, where she is the director, speaking to us about issues related to vaccinations. We're going to miss the target to vaccinate 70% of the global population by the end of this year. As we battle now a new variant, we're still not clear on its level of transmissibility, as well as how it will respond to the available vaccines.